Hey guys, in memory of Nelson Mandela's passing, I thought I would take a look today at a project that's really sort of underrated. I mean, when you think of, when you think of the posse cuts, like not just posse cuts like Marlon Morales' Symphony, but the ones that really brought everybody together, they're pretty much all for a good cause. You know, there's Stop the Violence, there's We're All in the Same Gang. I mean, those two are the two probably that spring to everybody's mind right away. And they're really sort of hip-hop's answer to uh, We Are the World, which was just the same thing, but with all sorts of pop acts and country musicians and everybody sort of but hip hop. And there were others. I mean, there was like Close the Crack House. There was The Points. Um, and then there was one or two like King Dream Holiday Chorus or like the Sun City Project, which brought hip hoppers and all other kinds of musicians of other genres together. So it'd just be like a 10% hip hop kind of song or something. Sun City was a full-length album about ending apartheid, so it was very related to what we're talking about today. And it features some rappers like Melly Mel and Curtis Blow, but largely, they're really overshadowed by guys like Bruce Springsteen, Pat Benatar, Ringo Starr. So hip hop is a very small part. I mean, I don't want to minimize their contributions, but you definitely wouldn't want to listen to the Sun City song. This is a full album, but it's basically known for the one title song. You wouldn't want to listen to that song as a hip hop song, as a hip hop fan. In fact, actually, and I blogged about this already, so I'll just mention this real quick. One of the other songs on the album, actually, which got its own 12-inch single here, is Let Me See Your ID, which really takes sort of all the urban artists, because it's not just the hip-hop artists, it's also like jazz and stuff like that, and sort of puts them all onto one song. So you got production by like DJ Cheese and I think Jam Master Jay, and you got the Fat Boys and Melly Mel, pretty much the whole Fats Comet Band, Duke Booty, Doug Wimbish, so this is definitely the song to look out for. But even doper than this is a purely hip-hop one again, so not a fusion of other genres, although strictly speaking there are a few other vocalists on there, like there's a reggae guy and stuff, but basically this is a pure, real hip-hop track. This is hip-hop doing itself for the same cause, because this came out a few years later. This actually came, here it is, Hip-Hop Against Apartheid, Free South Africa, Nadamiyama, which means beware, which is actually named after a famous protest song from the 50s or 60s, a famous African protest song, which is actually protesting again the Prime Minister and apartheid and all that. But this was right after Nelson Mandela was released, so 1989-ish. And it's just a huge collaboration of a ton of hip-hop artists. And for whatever reason, considering the massive lineup, which I'm about to talk about, it's really surprising how virtually unknown and unheralded this record is today. This is a pretty crazy monster track. And more than that, it's really a couple tracks sort of split up and kind of patchworked Frankenstein together. I'm going to explain that. If you could really say one guy is behind that, I guess it would be Africa Bambaataa, who put this together. He produces it with Jazzy J, who of course was his producer in the 80s and stuff. They were really linked together before Jazzy J broke out more on his own later on. And it features a lot of his acts, a lot of Jazzy J's acts, a lot of people associated with Africa Bambaataa, and just a ton of incredible hip hop artists. And what's interesting is it's a monster track. Also, is like 8 or 9 minutes long, depending which version you're listening to, and depending which version you're listening to, the lineup is different. The artists are different. There's a bunch of artists who are on all versions. You got X-Clan, Brother J, ISIS. You got Lakim Shabazz. But then you got people. You got like Queen Latifah. You got Josie Love. You got the Kings of Swing. One version has Positive K and Milk D doing a verse together. You got Brand Nubian on here. It's just got so many people. There's a few people who you probably haven't heard of. Some really obscure artists like Kid Seville. I mean, there's some guy on here named Malibu Rap-A-Lot. I don't know who he is. So, it's just a whole ton of artists. Unfortunately, they do list some artists here on the back, but it's not really complete. For example, I'm like 99% positive Black Rock and Ron are on here. I mean, they even say their name on the track, and yet they're not listed here. And also, this doesn't list who's on which version or, which verses are by who or anything. It just sort of lists a bunch of prominent artists featured on this record. So there's 3 main versions of the title track. And each one is really pretty long, like 8-9 minutes, and each one features a lot of MCs, but not all of the MCs. And what's disappointing is that there's no real definitive version. What I really wish was there was one version, even if it had to be like 15 minutes, however long it had to be, that just got everybody on there, and you could just listen to that. Because you'd have the quote-unquote video version, you know, which features a lot of people on there, like again, Brother Jay, um, Kings of Swing, Queen Latifah, Ultimate Force, you know, Diamond D's first group with Master Rob, they're on there. Then you got the ANC mix, which brings in other artists. That's the one that has like Positive K and Milk D and Joski Love. And then you have the Zulu Nation mix, and that brings in some more old school artists like Dada Rock of the Cold Crush Brothers. Oh, and then one other little point I want to mention is that also it lists a couple artists here like Busy Bee. I don't hear him anywhere on this record. He's named here. I don't know, maybe he was involved in like, you know, writing or behind the scenes, but I'm pretty sure he's not on this song. Although again, there are also some MCs who I can't recognize, but Busy Bee has a distinctive voice. I'm really pretty confident we don't hear him on anywhere on here. Um, so just a whole ton of artists. Cool Rock Steady, a Chicago guy. Just a really surprising variety because again, you wouldn't expect someone like Joski Love. Ultramagnetic MCs are on here. You know, they're on the same record. Like that's kind of mind blowing. Just that these artists are on the same record, and also sometimes their contributions are a bit different. For example, like the video version, most versions have Brand Nubian on there. They're definitely in the video version, but it's really just Grand Puba, except on the ANC version, which after Brand Puba goes, there's a follow-up where Sadat X and Lord Jamar are on the song. So that's all a bit complicated, I know, but honestly, the record is overly complicated, so there's no real way to explain that concisely. You might have heard me mention the ANC mix, that stands for the African National Congress, and that's important because the proceeds of this record went to the African National Congress. This was a, you know, for a cause, for a charity. Again, so it's so surprising this record has kind of totally disappeared. There was a concert tied with this record that did a concert. In fact, I think you hear samples of the concert on the other track, African Libra, again, Free Africa, which, again, no artists are credited, but I'm pretty sure it's the Soul Sonic Force guys. Maybe somebody else is on there too, but it sounds like, I'm pretty sure it's like Globe and Powwow on there. And Mr. Big. I'm pretty sure it's the Soul Sonic Force, but again, nobody's credited. It's a short, it's more of a regular length song, and it's pretty tight too. But really, the big monster track is, I would say, a bit better produced. B's got some real serious monster verses from a whole lot of guys. Like for example, Isis's verse on here is possibly like some of her best material she's ever done. And who else is on here? UTFO is on here. Dada Rock from the Cold Crush, the Jungle Brothers. And I guess I should say this is a racially charged record. Like I wouldn't call it racist. That's, you know, going way too far and over the top. Maybe a few people would, but I would. This is not racist. But I could definitely see some people wincing at some of the material on this record. But I don't think we gain anything from shutting it down or labeling it. Like this is, it just doesn't shy away from controversy, and it's real talk, which is what you want on a record like this. You don't want like a politically correct, you know, let's just soften up the language and be as friendly as we can kind of thing. I mean, there's enough of that. That's what We Are the World is and all that other stuff. This is a record that seriously talks about the issues. And again, you're talking about apartheid, you're talking about racial issues, you're talking about way back in 1989. This was really the front lines of racial issues, and everybody's just being sincere and real, and it's actually a really quality record all around. So I do recommend this. I hope nobody gets, you know, antsy at a few of the lines, but some people probably will. But there are actually two French MCs on here, including Lucien. You know that Tribe Called Quest song, Luck of Lucien? This is the actual Lucien. He's on here, and there's also another guy, I think his name is Solo. So there's two French artists. It's a nice track. It's kind of simple. It's kind of pared down. The samples do change up every so often, depending, you know, as the MCs switch in and out. So it keeps it from being really sort of monotonous, you know, for 9 minutes. There's a lot of stuff on here, so I'll play you a sample to give you a taste. But again, the song is 10 minutes long, and that's only one version, and you really need to hear all of them.
grip will slip as if we strive for perfection in the right direction. Freedom, justice, and equality for you and me. It's plain to see what we need is black unity. Yeah. I give it to brothers in the north, southwest, and east. Praying for my band by the Seneca speak. My peace, grab a few bars of what I say. That crush that African apartheid bull crap. Papa had this before you. I got my reference to your throne. Now what you wanna do? Think about a brother never having a say. So when they say come, you come. When they say go, you go.
So I absolutely recommend tracking this down. There are a couple different versions with different picture covers and stuff. Like this one here is sort of the more clean logo version. There's another one that has like a whole bunch of scattershot photos of people from the concerts and the artists and stuff. But whichever version you get, it's the same track listing on all of them. All of them have all the 3 main mixes of the song, plus an instrumental, plus the 2 versions of African Libre, and none of them feature a big definitive version. But still, a really tight 12-inch. Hip Hop Against Apartheid, a great record. Track it down, you won't regret it. Till next time, thanks for watching.